Welcome to the all-new Marvel Roundup, the Southgate Media Group's guide to the Marvel Comics of the week. As always, I am Phil Parrish, and joining me is...
Charlie Esser!
Alright, of course I have a ton of books, so I will start with Invincible Iron Man number 4.
Yes, you got dropped this week, Invincible. You know why? Too many dang books, Marvel. Thank you very much.
So this one is... Well, it's basically, of course, the big fight on the roof with Riri and Pepper against those ninjas and the techno golem. And basically, Pepper creates an opening for Riri to get away. She climbs through the window of another building. It's an apartment building. She finds a kid in the hallway with a laptop, which I don't know what she does, but she kind of downloads this Tony Stark AI, who sends her a suit of his old armor. I'm talking like 80s armor. Because
Sweet.
Yeah, and then Tony Stark's mother and Mary Jane are in the armory when the suit takes off. They're like, "Was there someone in that suit?" And Mary Jane's like, "Not that I'm aware of." And basically, the suit shows up. The AI is driving it, and then the Techno Golem kind of takes that armor too. And I don't know if that's part of the plan or not, because Riri looks at the kid and says, "You did hit enter on your laptop when I said now, right? Because you were supposed to." But yeah, it was a good issue. It was a fun issue. It was a thumbs up. But like I said, most of it was centered on that rooftop battle, and then Riri calling in the Stark AI and the suit of armor.
Huh. Okay. So what I'm guessing is going to happen next issue is, because it's the 80s armor, the operating system is going to allow Riri to reverse hack the Techno Golem and basically break her control of everything. So watch for that next week, next month, or 2 weeks, kids.
Or maybe
my prediction.
Maybe that'll slow down the Techno Golem, because it'll run so slow after attack.
No, we are. It's got upgrades. Oh no, the lawyers have come because it's a bootleg copy. Now we do. There's a fun bit of fan fiction I once read where they upload Windows onto the Borg Collective, and then and at first they think it's slowing them down, but they're just playing solitaire, and then all of a sudden lawyers appear out of nowhere and just start, because it was a bootleg copy. It's funny, even though it's very negative on lawyers. I don't like the lawyer phobia of people in the world, because there's too much hate towards lawyers. And the fact of the matter is, we hate lawyers, but lawyers are who actually keep us safe at night, because they're the ones who enforce the rule of law.
You're down on Matt Murdock every week.
I am down on Matt Murdock because he's a bad lawyer.
We'll get to
Matt
him.
Murdock is a bad lawyer, like being a bad cop. If you're a bad cop, I don't like you. But if you're a good cop, that's good. But the actual people who maintain the rule of law are lawyers. They're the ones who say, "Hey, the state can't do that," or "Hey, you can't do that because there's a law, and now we're going to enforce it. And here is the system in which we exist." And so, I don't like when people are down on lawyers, because I learned a long time ago that lawyers are actually there to protect us, even though we often hate and fear them. Much like superheroes, except they don't wear, ridiculous costumes. That's the end of my thought on that.
All right. Well, then I guess I will go to Spider-Man number 13. It's part 3 of Sitting in a Tree. Part 2 is in Spider-Gwen, which I did not pick up. Remember the last issue?
Miles Spider-Man.
Yeah, remember he went to Spider-Gwen's universe, I guess, because he's still telling the story to Gold Balls and Gank. And I guess, I don't know what happened in Spider-Gwen, but him and Spider-Gwen come face to face with, I guess, the version of his father from this universe, and he's some kind of criminal.
Yeah. Of course,
Hmm?
I wonder how old Miles is. I wonder how old Gwen is in this universe. Because I'm like, sometimes Gwen seems like old enough to date Peter, and then like other times it's like, no, she's way too young, and like Miles is supposed to be very young.
I
I
think
don't know.
they
I get
might.
confused by all this.
Yeah, I get confused with it too. I don't know what Gwen's age is supposed to be, but I think they aged Miles up a little after Secret Wars, but I don't know by how much. Like I don't know what his exact age is supposed to be. But yeah. So they're
I guess maybe
fighting.
they're all seniors.
Ah, something like that. You know, he's a senior, and maybe she's in her first year of college or something. But yeah. So they're fighting this. Well, the version of Miles' father from this universe. I don't know if he's like some kind of crime lord or something. Cause he's wearing a suit and everything, and he must be enhanced somehow because he's fighting them hand to hand. And he has a gang who's shooting at them, and Miles just keeps freaking out because he's like, Dad, and Gwen just keeps trying to tell him, she's like, that's not, it looks like your father, but it's not your real, it's not your real father. Because Miles even says he's like, oh, I can't handle, I'm still. It reminds me I'm so new to this stuff, and Gwen's so much more experienced and stuff. But he
Is
ends
he
up.
really new to this stuff? How long has he been? Well, I don't know.
Well, he is a Bendis in creation. Bendis kind of drags that stuff out.
Fair enough. Sliding time.
Yes. So they basically web up, otherworldly dad and leave him for the police, but then the cops are like, come after Gwen and Miles until she activates that bracelet that lets him jump between worlds. So they jump to a world where Apocalypse is riding on a giant spider. So they port back out of there, go back to Gwen's world, and then Miles gets a message, come back to this 616, and Gwen's like, oh, maybe they found your real dad, and that's when she activates his dimensional device, and then Gang's like, then what happened? Then the issue ends with him saying, I don't think you're ready to hear what happens next. So I guess looking at the last
But
page,
in
I guess
2 weeks you will.
Well, looking at the back page, I guess this is a 6-part story jumping between these two books. So yeah, part 4 will be in Spider-Gwen number 17. If anyone wants to check it out, if you want to send us a review, send us a review.
Yes, because neither one of us are picking up that book.
There's too many books. But yeah, it was good. It was thumbs up. And then I guess I will go to Star-Lord number 3. If you remember issue 2, Charlie, Peter Quill got a job at the bar with no name. And that's where he's working at now.
I was trying to remember who that was working there.
Yeah, Peter Quill. He's basically talking to, he punches out some creepy guy who's hit. It's Jigsaw. Is it Jigsaw? Yeah, he punches out Jigsaw, who was hitting on some war lady in the bar, being all creepy, stalkery. But yeah, then he's talking to a couple villains: Shocker, Diamond Head, and Melter. And then he's talking to what's this guy's name? The guy who gave him the job, and he says, "Are you gonna go see my dad at the home?" He says, "Yeah." Then Peter takes out the trash, and who does he run into in the alley, Charlie?
Who?
Your least favorite lawyer. Well, he's Daredevil right now.
Oh, him.
Yeah, Peter takes it. He sneaks up on Peter, so Peter takes a swing at him, and then of course Daredevil takes him down, and Daredevil says, "I thought the DA said you're supposed to stay out of trouble," and he says, "What?" He's like, "Everything is illegal on this planet." He's like, I can't take out the garbage, but you can attack me, and Daredevil says, "Technically, you attacked me." So he's like, Then Daredevil asks him, "Where's the money?" He's like, "What money?" He said, "There's $4,000 missing from that bank robbery you stopped last week." And Daredevil's like, "I asked around." He's like, "You paint a pretty varied Everyone paints a pretty varied picture of you: space police, superhero, planet roller, which I still can't get my head around." He says, "and pirate, adventurer, thief." So Peter says, "I don't have to listen to this," and walks away. And he's telling him, he doesn't know what happened to the money. And Daredevil says, "I believe you because, hyper senses." And he says, "Here, take this card. If you hear anything, let me know, or let the DA know." And then at home the next morning, Peter's leaving a voicemail for Kitty when he gets knocked down by his sister, Victoria. I'm trying to remember. She might be a half sister, I think. Of course, because of the father. But she's saying how her entire life was devoted to Spartax, and she was the rightful heir. And she's like, "And you get the keys to the kingdom, and you burn it all down." She's like, "You destroyed everything that meant anything to me." And she's like, she's not gonna kill him because he's only like part of the man he used to be. She says, "But once you get back everything you had and you leave the earth, I will hunt you down and end your sad life."
Oh my.
Yeah. So then later, Peter gets dressed and he goes to see what's the old guy's name? The guy at the nursing home, and Peter's talking about everything that happened, and that they go get ice cream or soft serve ice cream. And Peter's like, "Oh, that looks like a pretty big wad of money you pulled out of your wallet." And he's like, "What's it to you?" And he says, "Oh, there's $4,000 missing from that job we pulled." And Peter basically tells him to give it back. And he says, here's $3,200. He says, "What happened to the rest of it?" He says, "Got new shoes and some other stuff, ice cream." And Peter's like, "Well, there goes my tips for the last 2 weeks." So yeah, later on at night, he gives the money back to Daredevil, and he says, "Can you just return this to the bank and make everything square with them?" Daredevil says, "Well, who had the money?" He says, "I don't want to tell you." And he says, "You really don't understand how the laws on this planet work, right?" And that's when Peter says, "Okay, I'll tell you." He says his name's Edmund Allen, old guy, lives in a nursing home, and Daredevil's like, "Fine." He's like, "Wait," he's like, "Did you say Edmund Allen?" And then at the end we see Diamond Head, who's completely made out of diamonds, but he's already, I don't know why, but he's had his leg cut off by the true owner of the bar, Charlie.
And who is that?
The Black Cat.
Of course.
Of course. But no, this was a good issue. It was a thumbs up. It's I don't think I did it justice, but I'm enjoying this Star-Lord series more than I thought I would.
Oh, okay. Yeah, honestly, I was surprised you were still reading it, quite frankly.
Yeah. No, you know what? It's written by Chip Zdarsky, he's the one who's
writing. I love Chip.
He was writing Howard the Duck, and he's writing the upcoming Spectacular Spider-Man. I can't wait for that. I
know. I actually was like kind of excited when I saw it. Although it's funny because he like really trashed Spider-Man every time he mentioned the character in Howard the Duck. So I'm really surprised to see him writing Spider-Man, unless his entire idea is just to embrace the idea that Spider-Man is an incompetent nincompoop. And maybe a little bit sociopathic and self-absorbed.
Well, he said he's going to keep it more New York and not as much with Parker Industries. So,
yeah, which is honestly, you see, that's my problem with Spider-Man. It's like, Spidey, you're a grown man. Isn't it time you put away the tights and started like living a life of a grown-up? Really?
Well, you could say that about any hero, really, couldn't you?
Well, yeah, except Parker actually has a day job now. It's like this. It's like Captain America. He doesn't have a day job. His job is go, serve Hydra. That's his job.
Yes.
Has been for 40 years or 60 years at this point, and everybody else, it's like, the only other person you can really say has that is like maybe Tony Stark. Everybody else is sort of like, all they do is superhero.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Daredevil has a day job, but it is his day job, and so his night job, it's like, that's almost like his hobby is superheroing. It's like, I just think Parker doesn't have a good work-life balance. That's all I'm saying.
All right, Charlie. So, what's your first book?
Oh man. So I got two on my own.
Mm-hmm.
Let's open with U.S. Avengers. This is a fun book. This is a fun book on a lot of levels. And I'm going to tell you, you just want a fun popcorn book that is just a great joy to read. You can't go wrong with U.S. Avengers. I mean, there is not a lot of crazy depth to it, but at the same time, there doesn't need to be. It is supervillains and superheroes fighting it out, and that's great. We get a nice bit of Squirrel Girl teaching Cannonball a different power, which is actually kind of cool because she makes the point that, you can blast out of any limb, just pick a different limb. And so he has him like shoot his blasts out of his arms, and because he makes the point that he can put his invulnerability shield up, but when he does it without blasting, it takes a lot of concentration. So Doreen basically says, well, why don't you just blast, but shoot it out of your arms? And basically she braces him with her squirrel strength, and which I still don't know if squirrels are particularly strong, incidentally. I have no idea if that's the case. But she's bracing him with her squirrel strength, and obviously it's a lot of force as he's using this thing to smash all the evil robots. Because as you may remember, Bryce Wine was throwing his billionaire gala, and we find out that basically the Gold Skull has basically, because Arcade is presumed dead at the moment, basically stole all of Arcade's old stuff to plan this heist. And they do a lot of great callbacks about Arcade using garbage trucks to capture people. That's why he stole all the garbage trucks. And they do a lot of great fan service throughout this. Anyway, what you get is this great battle where we find out that the Gold Skull made his suit out of solid gold, which makes all the other engineers say, wait, you made it out of solid gold? Because that's a super weak metal, so they quickly defeat him. And then, sadly, Danielle, Captain America, goes back to her timeline with the Gold Skull. Because she says, she's got stuff to do, and she's from an alternate future, so it really doesn't make any sense for her to stay, and she's got to deal with what she does. And they make the point that, how do you keep on, you're in a world that is basically a dystopia. How do you stay positive? And she says, it's tough, and some days you can't, but you do what you can for other people, and they do what they can for you, and together we keep going. And then DaCosta gives his great thing, all right, we won today. We stopped the dangerous maniac from making the world his personal playground. But tomorrow is another day, and there's always something we can do. Let's get to work. We also get this great statement that the U.S. Avengers statement is, U.S. Avengers Unite, not Avengers Assemble. So that's cool. And next issue, we get American Kaiju back, as well as Deadpool. So that'll be fun. Thumbs up for U.S. Avengers. It's still a great fun, if you like comic books for being an exciting journey, this is a good one for you. Okay? That's my opinion. Big thumbs up.
Oh, all right. All right, then I guess I will go to Old Man Logan number 18.
I know, John,
Uh, starts well. It remember he's strapped on the space. He seems to be flashing back between the space station and his the wastelands, and he saw Jean Grey, who's been taken over by the Brood. So
Oh no.
he's telling her, "Listen to me," but he keeps flashing back and forth. But when he gets to the wastelands, he sees Banner's grandchild as a baby until it grows and tells him, don't feel guilty. I'm glad this world forged me and made me into what I was destined to be. He's like, I am the king. This world will bow to me now. He's like, I was vulnerable like your son was, and look what happened to him. I'm glad I'm like this now. So that's when he sees his dead family. But then he sees Jean Grey, so he tells her, whatever you do, hold still, because he pops his claws and he's gonna. I thought the Brood went in the body completely, but I guess she has some part of it on her, an embryo on her back of her neck, because he's like, if he's even off by a hair, Jean's dead, because he's gonna cut it off. He just runs and charges at her, jumps, and he's gonna cut it off, because if he misses it all, he's gonna he said if he misses it at all, by a hair, she's dead. So he comes, slices it off the back of her neck.
See, as far as I knew, the Brood just laid eggs inside you. This is the first time
that's
hearing
what I
that they
thought.
actually take her over. Yeah, this is like a new strain of Brood.
Yeah. But so once he frees her, they start fighting off the Brood. But he says, Jean, you have to help us. And she says, she's weak. But then she's like, yeah, I can do it. She's like, it's really easy because they all share one mind. One big, cold, disgusting mind. So if anyone has seen the end of The Best of Both Worlds Part 2 from Star Trek to Next Generation, you know what happens next. She goes into their group mind and tells them sleep.
There you go.
And so, yeah, they're asleep, and they find Iceman, who came with her. Then they call in cleanup, Hank McCoy, and looks like some S.H.I.E.L.D. agents come in to, take the Brood away. But then, at the end, Jean's apologizing to Logan, saying, I'm sorry I made you see that. And he says, I know. He says, but it made me realize I have some unfinished business. He says, I left that baby in the wastelands, and I know now I have to go fix that. And she's like, what are you saying? He says, somehow, some way, I have to save him. I have to go back.
To the future?
His future, yes.
Yes, gotta go back to the future. Sorry.
Gotta go back. But it was good. It was a thumbs up.
It sounds
all right.
good.
Yeah, and then I guess I will go to one that may pique Charlie's interest in a certain way. Amazing Spider-Man Clone Conspiracy number 5. Say that 3
Number
times fast.
5?
Yep.
Numero 5?
Yeah, I was going to say, it's kind of the last part, but there's a Clone Conspiracy Omega number 1 coming up soon, so...
Yeah, Phil, by now you should know, it's never over.
Never. I know. Alright. So, as we know, the sound, that horrible screeching sound went out and all the clones started degenerating. And Ben Reilly's the Jackal gets on TV and tells the world, don't worry, yes, you're dying, but I'll bring you all back better than before. So
Ben Reilly's a little bit crazy, I think.
Oh, very crazy at this point. Kind of makes me mad. And the Spider-Man's fighting to get his way to the control room where the Jackal's at. Kurt Connors as the Lizard sneaks his family out. And then Spider-Man and Clone Gwen start heading towards the Jackal. But meanwhile, Kane is fighting... Kane and Otto are fighting the Jackal. Throws Kane away. And then, first he was fighting Kane, and then Jack was like, I feel like I'm forgetting something, and that's when he gets hit by a mechanical tentacle, Charlie. And then Spider-Man.
It's Otto, the best one.
Yep. And then Spider-Man and Gwen are almost there, but like Green Goblin, Jack-o'-lantern, and Hobgoblin are coming, so Gwen shuts the door and says she'll hold them off. And they said, Jack-o'-lantern says, "You're already dying. Is this how you want to spend your last moments on Earth?" She's like, "This time, going out fighting, helping to save the world? You bet." Then Spider-Gwen finds Kane, and basically now they're fighting the villains with Prowler and Jean the Wolf. Otto's fighting the Jackal, and then Peter shows up and he says, "Two of you, it matters not. I'll take the pair of you on." And Jackal's calling Spider-Man brother, and he says, "No, you're crazy now." And that's when Marconi and Spider-Man start working on something to stop the virus. Something he downloaded onto his webware. And then Otto tells Marconi, "I don't mind dying a second time, not when it's for you." And she tells Spider-Man to get her out of there. They find Jameson, who his wife's dying again. Then that's when they work on a plan to send out their counter signal, which they do. And that's when you see Otto and the Jackal fighting, and it looks like they're about to decompose. Then they show Spider-Man and Marconi coming in. They find the Ock's mechanical arms, and it looks like the Jackal's mask, and looks like they're both dust. But as Marconi's telling herself, the ultimate template is gone, Charlie. That ultimate clone body.
Bum bum bum. Who is the ultimate clone? Otto or Ben? Or possibly both? Yeah. Mm-hmm. You know, it's an odd couple. One's a supervillain, one's a former supervillain, one's a former superhero. They fight crime sometimes, and they're stuck in the same head. One's clean, one's messy. One's a Parker, one's an Octavius. It's going to be a great sitcom, man. That's all I'm saying. I just want a lot of like scenes in their head of them both like discussing the way forward. That's. If it's not that, then quite frankly, why bother buying the book?
Exactly. But yeah. So then during the cleanup, Kane and Spider-Gwen are telling Spider-Man and Marconi that, well, except for the Rhino who's right there, they don't know which villains decomposed and which ones got away. So brace yourselves, people. You might be seeing a score of dead villains soon.
Yeah, but of course the Rhino was never a clone. The Rhino was always just a dude who just was there because his kids were clone. His wife and kid were a clone.
But they said Prowler decomposed. And then I guess they go in the basement and they some of the original people were down there, including the Prowler.
Like their bodies, or like they were in stasis.
I guess they were kind of in stasis because Prowler. They wake up Prowler and like that original Parker Industries guy who Peter originally tried to save.
Wait! They wake up the original people.
Yeah.
So like Prowler isn't dead. He was.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. They kind of glossed over that in the spoilers, man. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that surprised me. Yeah, because Prowler's even like, what did I miss?
So basically, Ben was lying to everyone when he told them they were dead.
Well, every good villain lies.
Well, yeah, exactly. And it kind of makes the point he didn't actually bring anyone back from the dead. He just found a way to recreate their memories at the moment of death. Mm-hmm. Which is actually something that was hinted at when, Peter and Gwen were talking in a previous issue, where she's like, I am Gwen. It's like, no, you're not Gwen. You have completely different memories from my Gwen. My Gwen died. You are someone else. Just like Ben Reilly and I have the same memories, and then at a certain point we diverged. And every other clone before you had your memories, and then you diverged. You're not that person. You may think you are, but that's because you're a clone. A dirty, filthy clone.
But thumbs up. I mean, it was kind of a MacGuffin issue, this way they can bring back any dead villain they want. But I mean, it was still enjoyable.
No, I'm not hating on the issue. It actually sounds
Yeah.
really cool and a great twist I did not see coming.
Mm.
But and honestly now I want to see this new Ben Reilly book, except if it's not Ben Reilly, the superior Scarlet Spider, with a bit of Otto in him, or at least a hint in the last page that Otto's in there too, biding his time. Then I'm not that interested. But anything with Otto, man, I want more Otto.
I'll let you
He's the
know.
best character.
I'm going to pick up at
Yes.
least the first issue. I'll let you know.
Okay, good. Save me
All
some
right.
money. Because Marvel, you got too many
Yes.
books.
All right, let's jump to Daredevil 17, which was good. It was almost my pick of the week, and there's a very interesting line in here, which we'll get to. But if you remember, it's Matt Murdock in the church confessional telling Father Jordan everything. He's Daredevil, and he starts to go into the story about how he wiped his memories, Charlie. He's telling him about his time in San Francisco, which we saw in Mark Waid's run on the Daredevil. How the whole world knew he was Daredevil, and then they show him at night in bed when he was in San Francisco with his girlfriend Kristen, and he was saying, he's trying to find what to do with his life now because since he can't practice law, and he says, I need something besides Daredevil because he's like even Tony Stark has his companies, Natasha has S.H.I.E.L.D., even Banner has his research, he says. But then they show a picture of the Punisher, and he says, I think it's because doing this full-time is dangerous. Perspective is important. So go in too deep, you might never come out. So they talk for a while, go to sleep, and that's when he's woken up by Typhoid Mary. And
Typhoid Mary?
Yes. Who basically
did not see that coming.
No, and she basically sets the room on fire with her pyrokinesis, and they don't show how, but he defeats her, but she basically almost burns down the townhouse they were staying in, but it's damaged enough they can't stay there, so for some reason they go back to New York for a while. So they get to their hotel in New York. Matt's feeling restless, so he, goes out as Daredevil. But of course, he's swinging by. No one says, "Hey, it's Daredevil." Everyone's saying, "Hey, it's Matt Murdock." So he's out, and then he hears a cry for help, and he tracks it down, and it's Tombstone and his guys. Like they basically have a guy tied to a chair, and Tombstone telling the guy, scream all you want, no one's going to hear you. That's when Daredevil shows up, and he takes out Tombstone and his gang, and the police take them away. And he says, I don't know, the cops were acting funny, so he goes to see the DA the next day, who will eventually become his boss. But he says, the DA says, I appreciate you, coming in, Mr. Murdock, but he's saying, Tombstone's attorneys are saying you attacked him and totally unprovoked, and there were no witnesses, and he says like you have credibility issues now because you're not a lawyer, you were disbarred, and you were also a very famous man who's profiting from your fame because I guess, I remember in Wade's run he got a offer to write his memoirs. So he's saying, the jury's going to think you just attacked Tombstone, for another story for your book. So then they show Matt outside on top of the Chrysler building he's saying, he's thinking to himself, it's so hard now. Everyone in the world knows exactly who I am, but I have no idea who I am. So they shows him going to ask people for help, putting his identity back. He goes to Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange can't help him. He goes to the Silver Surfer. The Silver Surfer refuses to help him.
Yeah. Did Doctor Strange say, I did that once for Spider-Man. That didn't work out well.
Well, no. Doctor Strange says no. The Silver Surfer says he won't use his power cosmic that way. Emma Frost says, "You're famous. Why would you do that? I wouldn't help you even if I could." And then he meets someone in a bar. He meets Damon Hellstrom.
And he says, good old Damon.
And Damon says, "I can't do that, but I know a guy who might be able to pull it off." And Matt says, "Mephisto?" And Hellstrom says, "Yeah, he's done this sort of thing before."
Oh.
And that's when Matt gets up and walks out of the bar and says, "Thanks, but I'm not that desperate."
Yeah. Well, fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
But Mephisto knows he's looking.
Mm-hmm. And so then he goes home and he's talking to Kristen, and she's basically like, we'll get through this and whatever. And then there's a knock on the door, Charlie. Matt opens the door, and who's standing there?
I'm guessing again a red suit.
No, it's two of the purple children.
Oh wait, purple. Wait. There's two purple children.
There's a few, because this was also from Wade's World.
Well, I guess yeah. I mean, it makes sense that there probably were more than one.
Yeah. I think they even said that in Wade's Run, like, Purple Man had like a bunch of illegitimate children and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we know about Purple Girl, but that was the person that Purple Man actually fell in love with. That was Purple Man's Jessica, which is actually such a sad story because he like back before they decided to make him an uber villain, he actually had this kind of, he was just a sad sack supervillain, and he once met a girl, and he like didn't know if she loved him for him or loved him because of his powers, so he just decided, told her, "You will not obey my powers anymore. My powers have no control over you." And she just basically freaked out and ran away, but she was already pregnant, which is how you got the Purple Girl, who then became a menace for Alpha Flight, because sliding time.
But it was good. It was a thumbs up. I'm guessing it's going to be the purple children he uses.
Yeah, but, that makes sense. I mean, all they need is whatever that crystal is Doom used to up his powers.
Yeah.
So really, he just has to now make a deal with Doom from the Emperor Doom run. And
if Doom's there.
Doom he just finds out who had it laying around.
Yeah.
Maybe the purple children said, "Well, our dad actually took over the whole world once. I mean, like technically Doom took over the world, but it was but it was our dad's whole doing. He was very important, and our dad's the best because that's how dads are. Cool dads.
But this issue was good. It was thumbs up. Almost my pick of the week, but I will go to my last book on my own. My pick of the week, Deadpool number 27.
Yay, Deadpool! He's awesome.
Yeah, it opens up with like 3 superpowered guys. I think all 3 are superpowered because I know at least one has super strength, one has electrical powers. They're basically holding hostages in the Lincoln Memorial, and they're screaming they want Steve Rogers. They only released the hostages to Steve Rogers, and first on the scene is Phil Coulson, and he says, I know everybody in this universe that has ever put on spandex, and I don't recognize these guys. So he calls Steve Rogers, and he says, I'm on my way. And I guess he's on a conference call because Steve says, "Deadpool, our meeting's going to have to wait." And that's when Deadpool's like, "Well, I'm already here." He's hanging out of a tree from his parachute. I mean, he must have parachuted in and got stuck in the tree. So Deadpool gets there first. He's meeting up with Coulson. And, he's asking Coulson, what do these guys want? And he said, I was going to meet with Steve, and Deadpool says, Cap wanted to talk about the future and about how he thinks I can be doing more to serve. And Coulson says, didn't he just fire you off the Avengers? And Deadpool says, well, I can see how that looks that way. He's like, or maybe he hired me to a whole other secret kind of the Avengers that a level 7 like you doesn't even know exists.
I love you.
And,
Yes. I like when Phil shows up.
Yes, but then Steve Rogers shows up, and he says, you know, I'm here, release the hostages and surrender. No one needs to get hurt. And one of the guys says, he's really here. Then the other one's like, the plan is working. If we actually succeed, should these events still be happening for us? And they're talking about chronal paradoxes, and then they see Deadpool, and they're like, wait, we didn't plan on Deadpool. What are the repercussions for our future? And they say, nothing of value will be lost. And the one guy says, I'll supercharge your powers. And so the big super strong guy comes after Deadpool. He's knocking over pillars in the Lincoln Memorial. And Deadpool says, this is the worst show that Abe Lincoln's ever had to sit through.
See, that's funny because Abe Lincoln got shot in the theater.
Ford's Theater, yeah.
Yeah, but of course, our American Cousin is apparently a notoriously bad play. So Deadpool may be right.
So yeah, they two of the guys are coming after Steve and Deadpool, and Deadpool stabs the super strong one. And he's like, wait, he's really not invulnerable? He's like, why would you combat Avengers without invulnerability? Then
that is kind of a thing, you know.
Yeah.
But I guess he's like thick enough muscles. You figure he has enough of a soak rate, you know.
And unless his power
role play.
Yeah, unless his powers were wearing down, because the third guy keeps it. He was supercharging their powers, and the electrical guy says, "Charge me up all the way." And the guy's charging his power says, "Sorry, my friend, this was always going to be a one-way trip. At least we die for America." And the electrical guy kind of flares up and disappears. And Deadpool's like, Cap, I didn't kill that guy. Cap's down for a little bit, so Coulson and Deadpool are chasing after the last guy, and of course the Deadpool's getting on Coulson's nerves, but then the third villain runs into Steve, and he says, "You're not supposed to be here, are you? You're time travelers." And the guy says, "We're from your ruinous future. Even though we failed to kill you, I can still warn everyone about the coming of your secret empire." And Steve says, "I'm afraid I can't allow." He says, "I'm afraid I can't allow that." Then he says, "Deadpool, gun!" And Deadpool's like far enough away where he couldn't hear the conversation. He takes him out with like a sniper rifle. And that's when Steve says, "Oh, we need a medic," but he's like, he's gone. And that's when Coulson walks up. He says, "Cap, what happened?" He isn't. And he's like, I guess Coulson saw that he wasn't armed, but then Steve put a gun into the guy's hand.
Mm-hmm.
But that he plays it off because Steve's like, "Isn't what?" And Coulson's like, "Isn't gonna be a problem anymore." And that's when Deadpool gets a call from Shikla, and he says, he's like, "I gotta go." He's like, "It's all over the news in New York." He's like, "Gotta go. I'll take a rain check on my lecture." And Steve says, "Find me after the crisis." And that's when Steve leaves. He tells Coulson, "I wish we could have did this without casualties." And that's when Coulson's like, my world is upside down, but I do what I was trained to do. He goes to some, I guess, abandoned diner that has a secret shield room. He says, I think he said, anyone who knew about the room is gone. This room was given to him by the old Nick Fury.
Mm-hmm.
There's like an old desktop computer. It looks like something from the 90s, but he starts printing out stuff, and he puts everything up on the board. I guess he's going over everything that Steve Rogers has done since getting trapped in Dimension Z.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how the issue ends.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Coulson knows.
Coulson's on to him, yeah.
Yeah, here's what I gotta say. There was a whole thing on CBR this week about What do we want in Phase 4? And it's all the typical stuff. Black Widow film, Hawkeye film, blah 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 blah. You know what I want? I want Maria Hill, director of S.H.I.E.L.D. Why is Colby Smulders? And here's what I'm going to tell you: if we get it season 3, if they want it to work, I want Colby Smulders back as the ultimate Nick Fury, triple crossing everybody, 6 steps ahead of anyone, director of S.H.I.E.L.D. Because, I think that is I think that's what Maria Hill does best, and I think Colby Smulders could pull that off.
Story-wise, it would make sense, but do you think they're just like, maybe they can't work out a deal with the actress, or do you think like the cinematic side is like, no, we get Colby Smulders?
Well, what is Colby Smulders doing?
Honestly.
I mean, she went from a hit sitcom, which is a great thing. She had a couple of roles in the movies. She's done some other movies, I'm sure. But it's not like she's, sitting there. It's not like honestly, she didn't come off of How I Met Your Mother in a Jennifer Aniston position even.
Yeah. Well, that's
Jennifer Aniston walked off Friends like, oh, I don't do TV anymore, for some reason.
Yeah.
She never had a hit movie after that. I'm just saying,
I'm thinking maybe the movie side wants her, because maybe she's probably filming Infinity War right now.
Yeah, but she's not doing anything there unless she's director of S.H.I.E.L.D. in Infinity War. But then they have to come back and put it, and again, I know everyone on the Nuff Said secret Facebook feed. You kids don't know about it because you're not in the group, in the club. But, everyone said, no, they're not going to do any Infinity War stuff before Infinity War. I'm saying, no, I think they're going to do some Thanos Easter eggs. Mm-hmm. But actually, now that I think about it, I think some Colby Smulders over in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. makes sense. If Colby is going to be director of S.H.I.E.L.D. Because let's face it, Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury is great, but he's off being the man on the wall. You need someone to run S.H.I.E.L.D. I love Phil. I love Mace. Neither one of these guys are all capable of running S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
You need a Colby Smulders in that position.
Unless they do put her in that position and you just don't see her for most of the episodes.
Well, yeah. Well, that's actually like my biggest complaint is they have like the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. on field missions.
Yeah.
It's like, General Eisenhower isn't out there, fighting on the front line shooting Nazis. He's like behind a desk, To quote the HMS Pinafore, sit behind a desk and never go to sea, and you shall be the ruler of the Queen's Navy. I mean, the fact of the matter is that that's a thinking job. That's not a shooting job. And you want someone that can think 6 stages ahead. Not someone that's saying, well, let me get back into the field and shoot some people. Because really, that's not who... honestly, what I really want, I want an old fat guy. I want Wilford Brimley to be the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. No. Because that's who should be. It should be this old guy who's just this old... who's seen it all. Honestly, Nick Fury, at the end of everything, when he went to go become the freaking unseen... That's the guy who should always have been the director. It's the guy that can like say, well, I am a professional. I'm going to run this multi-trillion-dollar organization that is managing all the espionage for the planet and then beyond. And I'm not going to be sitting there, well, I got to get myself in there because I got to shoot some bad guys too. It should be a guy who says, no, that's not my job. Got to compartmentalize. That's all I'm ever saying. Anyway, let's not get into super connectivity right now. Then we're gonna have nothing for super connectivity. Let me get to my. Was that your last book?
Yes.
Thumbs up. Excellent. Let me get to my pick of the week. Can you guess what my pick of the week is, Phil?
Is it a cat?
I only have 2. No. It is Unbelievable Gwenpool number 12.
Oh, that's right.
My other book on my own, and And I actually did some research while you were talking. Gwenpool doesn't appear till after Secret Wars starts.
Mm.
So Gwenpool is aware of Secret Wars.
Ooh.
Now, is she aware of Hydra Cap? I don't know. Hydra Cap premiered in March. She premiered in January. But we know that the time sync isn't always exact.
Yeah, because it was during Pleasant Hill that Kobik got her hands on Steve Rogers. So. Huh.
But we don't know exactly when Gwenpool came over. So she may be painfully aware of... here's what I'm going to say about Gwenpool is that either she is painfully aware or she's going to be hoisted by her own petard with that. But either way, she's going to cheat. Anyway, Gwenpool wakes up in a cell, says, where am I? She says, this is a very different genre. How did I get here? Was it the same way I got to the superhero universe? No, there was. And then we go to, she's at Ronnie's. She sees Megatoni trying to get a gig, but Megatoni won't talk to her. Because everyone's mad at Gwen because they basically feel she screwed up their old gig, but they realize she's made them characters in this story. And so Gwenpool kicks down her door, which lands on Megatoni. She's like all excited to see Megatoni. Megatoni basically walks away. They encounter a bunch of monster frogs, and it's just great the way that like no one is accepting what Gwenpool sees of the universe outside of them. And of course, because she knows that the little chain on the far area is the thing that she has to pull, so she gets past things and pulls the chain, which makes all the frogs get flushed. And we see one frog say, "Turn back, try to escape, Gronk, before the unkillable beast finds you." And it says, don't make noise. Says, what was that? Says, "I know something like that shakes you to the core. Talking frog." And here, someone say, Gwen says, a frog that knows my name. Says, "Mundu, always with the slurs." And basically, you're doing a dungeon crawl, and Gwenpool basically walks him through that. It's like, that's the shopkeeper. He's gonna have everything we need. And she's like going through, grabs a broadsword, and then decapitates the shop owner. And then, of course, the great demon shows up and says, well, a level 1 has decided she knows the tricks and traps of the deadliest dungeon. And she says, a title alliteration, and yep, pretty much. Excellent. Then tell me, how did you get here and why? And she goes, says, I will tell you. Mercenaries, every single one of you, what you live for, violence and money. Your memories are woeful traitors, so I will tell you. You all answered an advertisement for mercenary work. It brought you here, a classic setting to experience the lifestyle you crave. A dungeon crawl, a raid, kill and profit, lose and die. And you have, Deadpool says, she was right about the exposition. Says, I'm sorry, I can't tell you more than that. Perhaps if you do well enough, you might even find out who put you here. And then Gwenpool says, you're Arcade. Says, what? I'm the Enigmatic Dungeon Master. Yeah, you're Arcade. This is a murder world. Says, fine, you guessed it. I'm Arcade. Who the hell are you? It says, I'm Gwenpool, and I've done this dungeon 1 billion times. Says, I don't remember you being here before. It's in a broader sense. Well, you've ruined the shopkeeper scene. Okay, so if it isn't, this is Megatoni. If it isn't funny anymore, or whatever, can you just let us go? Ha ha! Oh, it is still so much fun. You know what my problem was, Murder World before? Heroes. Good people who fought for something made it out every time. But trapping mercenaries, you've all made it so much more sustainable. And this is an amazing point. because it means Arcade has almost figured out this Gwenpool's secret, which is that it's fictional. Heroes get out of murder world. Mercenaries don't. People that are professional murderers don't get out. Basically, Gwenpool realizes that all of the stuff in the shopkeeper's place it's a bunch of other stuff in their stuff. Everybody outfits as dungeon crawlers. Gwenpool gets a bunch of armor put on, which is actually pretty cool. She looks great in the armor. The Spooky Eye has a crazy hat on now, and Megatoni is dressed as a cleric. Megatoni still does not want to listen to Gwenpool, but of course he falls through a trap door to be surrounded by other mercenaries. Batroc basically defeats the mercenaries and mentions, "Hey, these aren't guys who are actually these aren't frogmen. These are actually guys I know from a previous thing. They must have just outfitted themselves with frogs for some reason." And, they realize that the unkillable beast is behind the door. Megatoni goes in, and you hear, slash, flump, and you see an arm fall out. And you see Megatoni come out and says, "Megatoni, are you okay?" He says, "I did a dumb thing." It says, "Weird, goony frog monsters." And now Batroc, the Leaper's little gang. How many baddies in medieval hosiery do I have to kill to get out of here? And who do you think that is, Phil? Who do you imagine is the unkillable beast?
The Hulk?
No. Wade Wilson. So here's Wade, and he's putting his arm back on after Megatoni stuck it on. And that's the end of the issue. And it is like, I want to read more, because I know Gwenpool is going to talk to Wade about breaking the fourth wall. And it's like, and like, depending on and I'm sure she's going to say like, "Oh man, who's writing this? Is this a fourth wall breaking issue, or is this, he's going to like not be breaking the fourth wall? Which world am I in?" And it's like, this is awesome. So yeah, that's what, this is my pick of the week, because it really showcased Gwenpool's awesome power as the person who knows the tricks, who knows the rules. And it reminds me of like Scream, and the one character who knows the rules of horror films, and here's how we have to do things, and here's what we have to do. Even though we find out at the end that he wasn't actually in on it, but it was like, yes, it's awesome. Unbelievable Gwenpool number 12, still one of the best books Marvel puts out. It's Ambush Bug. And unlike DC, who is afraid of the wonders of Ambush Bug, Marvel embraces it. Marvel embraces the idea of a character who 100% embraces their fictionality all the time. And honestly, I want to see the great Access Gwenpool Ambush Bug crossover. I just want them actually probably just sitting around eating popcorn, watching stuff, because they both know they're fictional or know they're in a fictional universe. And Ambush Bug is like, fiction. What are you going to do? Although that'd be cool, because of course Ambush Bug has the power to call the office, and Gwenpool doesn't have that power yet. And that would be amazing if Gwenpool ever got the ability to call back to the office. And then, what they could do then, because they could have Gwenpool say, "Oh, is this Marvel Comics? Could you call my parents so I can talk to them for a minute?" Oh, poignancy. That'd be awesome. Okay, and this is all the reasons why Gwenpool is 100% my pick of the week. Best book ever. Okay. Let's talk about all these great books that were not our picks of the week, but were all still pretty awesome. What do you want to do first, Phil? We got Thor, Doctor Strange, Ultimates, 2 caps to pick from.
Yeah, I know. Should we get to the Steve Rogers Captain America?
Oh, goodness. No foreplay, Phil? Okay, yeah, let's go to Steve Rogers.
Well, we kind of already talked about him.
Steve wants Steve Rogers to be the one he talks about. So he knows that because Phil's not as good as at math as I am, so he knows if he wants it, he's got to make that first. See, I would be like doing like, let's see, if Phil goes, then I'll go, then okay, and then figure out who's the last one. But anyway, let's talk Steve Rogers' Cap, Phil, because it really is a standalone book. It really does not tie into anything else we see. Mm-hmm. But this is the money book. This episode, Phil, what happens in it?
Oh, basically, it starts off with one of these flashbacks, quote unquote, from 1940, where Steve's getting ready for the Super Soldier Project, and he's talking to Erskine, and Erskine invites him to his quarters later. And then we flash to the present, to the funeral of Jack Flag. Steve Rogers killed him after that thing out of push him out of the plane and eventually killed him.
Well, yeah, but let's be honest here. As Free Spirit is being taken away, she says, Jack will come back, right? Sometimes they come back. Mm-hmm. And Peggy's like, who of course has come back herself, is, come on, sweetheart. Mm-hmm. Let's get you out of the cold. Although, facts of the matter is, he's got crazy alien tech, freaking repair tech, nanotech inside him. Mm-hmm. And not for nothing, based on what we see later, Steve dang well knows that, everything is malleable. Mm-hmm. But anyway, you continue.
All right, so then he's talking to Rick Jones and tells him he has a mission for him. But first, before he tells him this, he goes to talk to Peter Quill, who's also there. Mm-hmm. And then it goes back to the flashback where young Steve meets up with Erskine, and then he pulls a gun on him.
Now, can I make a weird point in this? Have you ever seen any drawing? I mean, have you ever seen the classic Kirby drawings of Erskine?
Yeah.
He is huge. He is a super soldier in and of himself in every depiction up until this point. He has always been this huge guy with a mustache, but, big. And this is the first time we're kind of seeing him drawn in kind of that little scientist way.
But is this Steve's how Steve sees him, or these are even altered? These are probably altered memories.
Yeah,
too,
this is completely fictional universe, which we can get to later. We know it's a fictional universe, which we're going to get to in a bit. But yeah, that's just like the biggest thing that struck with me is that every time you've ever seen Erskine before, he's as big as Steve always is. Mm-hmm. And that was something that came into it with the MVP character, which is that Erskine had sort of developed the training regimen that'll make you a super soldier long before he had actually figured out a chemical process to make you a super soldier. Because arguably, maybe Erskine was already a super soldier, or at least a really buff guy, Yeah. It's just interesting to see him small, although that comes into a lot of other questions. But I mean, that's the malleability of the Marvel Universe in general, which we get to with our new Arnim Zola, which is like the latest version of him.
Yeah. So anyway. So then Steve is talking to Peter Quill, and he's talking to him about Carol Danvers' space shield project. And we see the press conference. Carol says it's coming along quicker, faster than they thought.
Yeah, well, she's going to build it. Mm-hmm. She's going to build a wall, make the Skrulls pay for it, quite frankly.
It's going to be huge.
But her wall will work, apparently.
I guess bought it at Nordstrom's. Then we flash back to Steve, and Erkson's telling him, don't do this. Yeah, whoever's telling you to do this, don't listen to them. Listen to me. You were chosen. You are not a killer.
And here's what I'm going to say, Phil. Do you think, because this is all kind of a dream state, do you think this is Erskine's, do you think that's Steve's subconscious telling him don't fall for what Kobik is doing to you?
I think it's a very good chance.
Yeah, I mean, because I think Steve knows this is all Kobik.
Because even if you go back, probably his mother might have been the same thing too. It was like the beginning of the hallucinations. His mother might have been part of him saying, "No, don't go down this road."
Yeah.
But Erskine gets shot. But because interestingly enough, Erskine gets shot, but not by Steve.
Mm-hmm.
Gets shot by Helmut Zemo.
Yeah, because Helmut's his best friend and will always protect you, Steve. Which brings us to the next future thing where we realize that the person Steve has been talking to is Helmut.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, this is the most beautiful part of this episode, which is he basically tells Helmut everything he's ever wanted to hear.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, they made you younger for some reason. I don't know why, but I guess that was just part of that whole thing. And I love this because it's basically every crazy person's statement ever, which is, I'm not crazy, the universe is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But he makes a convincing, but of course, you're living in a universe with a Kobik, that is not an unreasonable statement to make.
But he says, you probably think I'm insane, brainwashed, or maybe just think the cosmic cube changed me, that I'm the aberration and not all of this. So he even calls out the cosmic cube.
Well, of course, because they're lampshading it, because a guy like Steve Rogers would have to.
Mm-hmm.
And what he's saying is, and this brings a very interesting concept about what Kobik did. Did she change Steve Rogers, or did she just bring a Steve Rogers from an alternate universe where this was the truth into it? Is there here's what I'm going to say. Is there a Hydra Cap universe where Steve Rogers basically is like, what am I doing here? Why does everyone think I'm a Hydra agent? Why is this the universe I'm existing in? I doubt that, but it is. This is actually, why this one isn't my pick of the week. I can't really tell you, except that Gwenpool is just such a fun book.
Yes. And
just the fact that, honestly, the psychology that Nick Spencer employs here, as he's basically has Cap telling Heinrich, your father was a good man who loved you. They've just made you forget.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like such a beautiful and terrible thing to say. Because that's all Heinrich Zemo has ever wanted to hear his whole life. Was that his father loved him and was a good man. And actually was a hero of his own story. And, I mean, honestly, for the deep nerdery that Nick Spencer does on this, it is so well worth it, where he says, the Zemos weren't Hydra. You never had a tie to Hydra, but why did you insist on becoming a part of Hydra? Why did you try to make yourself a hero? Because part of you, that's what you wanted, And man, I just feel sorry for Red Skull in this whole storyline, because you can see he is so dang haughty in whatever country he's in. He's like, no, everything is going according to plans. And then we get, of course, Avril talking to her girlfriend, who someone Drew to look exactly like Captain Marvel. I'm sorry, Photon. You know, which was my biggest complaint about this issue is that they couldn't give her girlfriend a decidedly unique look. They had to make her look pretty much exactly like Photon, right down to the fact that she's wearing a white top with a trench coat, almost as if they had traced her out of another issue.
Yes.
You know, it's like, you know, give her like an actual fro, or give her a close crop hair, or give her something different so that we know this isn't supposed to be Captain Marvel that her girlfriend is. Her girlfriend is just, yeah, they just say she's her girlfriend. She's not her spouse, right?
I think so, yes.
Yeah, these superheroes, they have commitment issues, man. No one ever wants to get married. You know? It's like, you know, if you're happy, get married. That's what I say. But she has her flash. She knows where Kobik is because she's got her cosmic awareness. And then the big deal. What happens next, Phil? What's the big deal?
Well, in Begalia, the Taskmaster, there was another, I guess there was a spare hard drive on this ship that went down, so Taskmaster sees footage of Steve Rogers saying "Hail Hydra" from issue 1.
Yep. Yeah, well...
Boy, this is quite the anti-Hydra Cap team. We got Coulson, we got Taskmaster.
And Black Hand. Don't forget the Black Hand. I love that he actually includes "the" in when he talks to him. The Black Hand. Although, see, you don't read the previews, man, but they actually go over why they do that in the previews, which is that in Begalia, like, identity theft's a real big problem, so they are very big on code names there. So, hey, Phil, is it just me, or did they draw Arnim Zola to look exactly like Otto?
Yeah, I did notice that, yes.
You know, sometimes I don't know if the artists are being lazy or if they're being intentional when they do stuff like that.
No, I don't know if I've ever seen like the Zola from the comics before he got put in that big, the body with the TV in the chest.
Yeah, there are several versions of them. That was one of the many times I've got called out on CBR was when I asked, is Zola a dwarf? Because he was a dwarf many times historically. And it wasn't until I don't know who was Nick Spencer's run, but it was the Cap run. I don't know how long Nick's been writing, but it was a recent thing that it has been unequivocal he was not a dwarf. They have gone back to show Zola over the years before he became the essentially the electronic copy of Zola, the AI of Zola, and it's been a question of whether or not he was a dwarf. But in the Evolutionary Wars, they specifically say he is a dwarf, but it becomes this question: is he a dwarf physically, or is he a dwarf mentally, or is he a dwarf spiritually? Is he just a short guy that they're going to call a dwarf because he's, avarice and the like, But here they kind of split the difference to make him look like Otto Octavius. And again, just weird things to have happen here. And we also see that he is about the same height as Steve, who is supposed to be short in this point in his life. So, so he's a shorter guy. He's a dumpier guy. And he looks like Otto Octavius. Like, literally, like they took Otto Octavius and stuck Arnim Zola's brain in Otto Octavius's body. Yeah. Anyway, okay. So this is why you can't do this one first, Phil, because
why?
What do you want me to do? I said that's why we can't do that one first, because we spent the whole time talking about it. That was a great book.
Oh, yeah.
And, yeah, What do you want me to do next, Phil? You want me to do Ultimates, Doctor Strange, Thor? Or you want me to go to Sam Cap?
Whatever you want to do, because that one was my pick. So which one would you like to do?
You know what? Let's do Mighty Thor. We're gonna save We're gonna save Sam Cap for a bit. So Mighty Thor is just an insane book, and I can do this quick. Gods suck. They're kind of jerks. They have kidnapped Thor because they want to say who's the best god of all, and they beat up Gladiator to show they basically warped Gladiator because the gods. But here's what makes this issue: we get to meet the best god ever. Who's the best god ever, Phil?
Oh wait, is it the Shi'ar god?
Yeah, well, it's Shadrach,
yes.
god of daffodils and documentation. And I'm here from Omnipotent City to officiate the challenge of the gods. Shall we get started? There is an established order of these things. After all, trial by combat is scheduled for round 17. And we get the fantastic filibuster of the great Senator Volstagg, whose appetite is second only to his verbosity. And I shall filibuster until the end of days.
He basically tells stories that happened to Odin and said they happened to him, and then he lists what he ate during that adventure.
Honestly, Volstagg is the most awesome character in the Asgardian Marvel pantheon, and why they don't do more with Volstagg in the MCU, I don't know. They've got a great actor, even though Zach's upset that he's in a fat suit. He's a great actor. He does great things with the character. And he honestly, I think, embodies that idea. This guy who is very obsessed with his appetite and obsessed with the adventures and the way people see him. And yet in the MCU, the universe, they do make him seem like, hey, he's actually a pretty bad butt warrior. He's a guy that can stand up to it. Then we get Seth calls out Cull as a coward because he does not want to face the Shi'ar. And we see Lady Sif basically saying, hey, the Shi'ar attacked us, and are you so much of a coward that you're not going to go attack them? And everyone's like, hey, they just kidnapped Thor. We hate it. He sucks. And it's like, yeah, but, they came onto your doorstep to do it, didn't they? Don't matter that it ain't a guy you like. It's the fact that it's the person who said, hey, we don't have to respect Asgard. We're just going to come in there and kick around. I also love seeing Brunhilde being the big bad butt behind everybody. Poor Fandral, he kind of gets pushed to the back there. Anyway, we get to the Battle of the Gods, in which we do once again see how much jerks the gods are. We see that the Shi'ar gods are basically going to destroy Chandalar, the capital city of the Throne World. Because they're jerks. But for every person who says a prayer to them that night, they get a point. But Thor says, we're not going to do that. Prevents the grand tidal wave, saves everybody. So everybody says, we will pray to you, Thor. You're awesome and all that. And you see Shandrick basically saying, nope, she won. You guys suck. And it reminds me very much of the Dean in Revenge of the Nerds, where he basically, as John Goodman's, who is the football coach in that, and I'm forgetting his name, but he's a good actor who plays Gable. They start to lose to the nerds, and the Dean, who is a nerd himself, basically says, they're winning. And then we get to Shi'ar space being breached by some ship they don't recognize, and their shields have been pierced by some weapons that they believe are called arrows, and we see the Asgardians in longboats coming to destroy them all for Asgard, which means Sif convinced Cole to attack, but probably at the worst possible moment. So, ba. Phil, what book do you want to do next?
Should we do Doctor Strange 17?
Fine by me. That's a good one.
Right.
They're all good. These are all good books. There's not a bad book in the bunch.
No, it's really good this week. So Doctor Strange 17, it opens up with Doctor Strange battling two tribes of, I don't know, what are they, demons? The Gugari and the Dovugu?
Yeah, I don't know if they're demons. They're just sort of extra-dimensional beings.
Yes. But he defeats them and tells them, one will stay to the west of the river, the other ones will stay to the east, and no one is allowed outside of the living room because, of course, this is taking place in a part of his mansion, his sanctum sanctorum. And then he's talking to Zelma Stanton. They're looking for Wong, who is taken by Mr. Misery. And that's when Doctor Strange sees all these magical problems are popping up, Charlie, because magic is slowly coming back. Crystal Warriors, the Darkhold has been opened, witchcraft readings on Wundagore Mountain.
And Mangog is coming. Let's not forget Mangog. That's a DC reference for you kids out there.
No. Was there a man? Is that DC? Okay.
Yeah, Mangog is in Kingdom Come. He is one of the new generation of superheroes who is... Phil, I should not be having to lecture you on DC canon here.
Yeah, no, I know that, but for some reason I thought there was a Marvel one too.
And there might be a Marvel one too, but I just read about Mangog today in DC,
yeah,
so...
I knew it, yes, I looked it up. There is a Marvel one too. He appeared in Thor.
Mangog's just awesome. It's a good name. That's why everyone uses it.
Yes. But, Doctor Strange says all this has to wait because he has to find Wong, so he hops on a Harley and goes to the bar with no doors, but meanwhile we see Mr. Misery basically, I guess he's going through Wong's mind to find Doctor Strange's secrets. And he says he finds something interesting. But
well, yes, he does. He finds, finds something interesting. Let's get to it.
All right. Well, Doctor Strange goes to the bar, asks, wants to know if anyone's seen
Can I
Mr.
say
Misery.
that Doctor Strange on a Harley is pretty awesome?
Yes.
And it's not even a mystical Harley. It's not like he had like Ghost Rider's Harley. It's just a motorcycle he had. That was cool.
So he's asking them if anyone's seen Mr. Misery or Wong, if they can find them. But then who shows up? The Man-Thing.
Always awesome.
No. And Doctor Strange was afraid. So he goes with Man-Thing to the nexus of all realities in the swamp and helps him fight Nazi ninja vampires. Long live Reich 666. But back in the city, I guess, Mr. Misery tracks down Samuel Wintergreen, who had a craniotomy performed on his brain 5 years ago to remove a tumor. Mr. Misery...
that's the removal of a skull for you kids. Craniotomy. Actually, no, I'm sorry. An otomy is the penetration of a skull. The ectomy would be the removal of a skull. So a craniolectomy would be the removal of the skull or the cranium, which is the top part of the skull, to remove a tumor. A craniotomy is actually an exploratory surgery an exploratory surgery through the skull to find a tumor. So much less severe, but still, it ends poorly for Mr. Wintergreen.
Yes. So then they show Doctor Strange helps Man-Thing defeat the vampires, and he says, that was a good stress reliever, but remind me to give you Blade's number next time. And then Man-Thing seems to pay... and Man-Thing seems to pay him back in some kind of algae. And that's when Doc gets a call
Don't
from
question
Zelma.
what Man-Thing gives you.
Goo from Man-Thing? Okay. So...
He's the freaking nexus of all realities. If he says, here, take this... Yes. I don't care if it's a salamander. You take that salamander because that's the salamander of all reality.
Well,
it's something that's going to fix the problem.
I know. The algae's going to come in handy because Doctor Strange gets the call. He makes it back to New York. And he's been called into the hospital because several people have been attacked, all had brain surgery some years ago. And in every case, the surgery was performed by Stephen Strange himself.
Mm-hmm.
And the doctors can't fix them because the tumors are basically attacking them. So Doctor Strange says, he's going to take something from the algae and perform the surgery, but not without qualified assistance. He made a call. And who did he call, Charlie?
Dr. Jane Foster, also known as the Money Thor. Now, here's the question to you. Is he calling her for Thor or Jane Foster?
Maybe both.
Yeah, well, obviously both. I mean, I guess both probably would be the best choice.
I mean, someone who's kind of has powers, but I mean, she was a doctor, so she probably knows what she's doing.
Mm-hmm. Inclined to agree.
Thumbs up.
Yeah, hugely. I mean,
hugely.
Like I say, Marvel isn't... Well, I don't want to say Marvel isn't making bad books. I'm not reading bad books from Marvel. Yeah, that's the thing. There may be lots of lousy books out there. Venom may have sucked this week. I don't know. Yes. Invincible Iron Man, which you read, didn't sound that impressive. So, honestly, I think had I paid money for that and read it, I probably would have been like, because it just sounded like a fight book, and I'm not big into fight books. You have to have something deeper to the book than just the fight. It's like Gwenpool. That's mostly just a fight book, but there's this subtext going on throughout it. And likewise, Doctor Strange wasn't really a fight book, but Thor was mostly a fight book. But honestly, there is so much else going on in the interstitials between the fight that make you go, oh yeah, that's pretty awesome. And moving beyond the let's talk Sam Cap, number 19. I like this episode, but this is a legal drama. And so really no punching at all. All the punching occurs in flashback. And we get what I think is there's a little bit here that I think is a little heavy-handed. Because we see that, Elvin, he's got a kind of incompetent lawyer, which kind of bugged me. Because honestly, I usually think public defenders are probably like the guys that have the most experience at law. They're probably a lot more together than this guy. But I guess maybe it's the idea that the capitalist system pulls people up. But at the same time, I think a lot of... I don't know. I'm not sure. Anytime I've ever heard an interview with a public defender on NPR, they're like stressed and worn out, but they're actually still real decent lawyers.
Yes.
Because here's the thing about being a lawyer. You can do a lot of work that is, standard wage lawyer work without actually having to defend people. The reason why, not to make the counterpoint to it, but the reason why most public defenders don't make strong defenses is because most people who get arrested are at least somewhat guilty. And it's not to say that everyone is, and the fact of the matter is everyone is not. And to the extent so we get the fact not an all-white jury. We can see clearly that there's some people that are probably Hispanic, Asian, and at least 2 African Americans on the jury.
Yes.
Because this is a New York City jury. I mean, the reality is, even an incompetent lawyer will not have an all-white jury in New York City. And we see how Elvin has problems getting character witnesses, and the DA, who has an axe to grind, has a thing. And we can see, Sam is stepping up there to give his testimony, which doesn't count, and his video surveillance he has is admissible because, quite frankly, it was inadmissible evidence. It was acquired via questionable means.
And the technology is new.
Yeah, the technology is new. Who knows what the heck they're doing? And quite frankly, you're in a universe where you've got freaking Tony Stark AIs running around, LMDs. How can you trust this video? Because you say you're Captain America, but, are we going to take that just at face value? As far as we know, you're just another vigilante. He's not, for what it's worth, he's not Jeff Mace. He's not the Patriot from the 1940s brought forward who has an impeccable record. He's just another guy who has had his life altered by a cosmic cube multiple times. Who knows what his past really is? We see him beat up Captain Boomerang, who, for some reason, no matter what universe you're into, Captain Boomerang is always the sack. He's the sad sack in DC. He's the sad sack in Marvel. Somewhere, someone decided that we need to have a character who uses boomerangs, but we're going to make him be the most pathetic villain of all. It's like, I don't know if someone decided that we needed the most pathetic villain and his weapon will be boomerangs, or just that just happened organically. But either way, we know Speed Demon's the bad guy. We track him down. We have a bunch of pigeons attack him. He says Sully for some reason. He's ready to testify, but of course, they've already made their decision. Sorry, Sam, you're too late. And everyone has to deal with the fact that they're saying Elvin is guilty. And of course, young people are mad because injustice exists. And we're going to commit an act of terrorism, quite frankly. Firebombing a bank, that's a little beyond the pale. This is one of the things about comic book universes is everything is just a little bit more fantastic, to quote Ultimate Reed Richards. It's like when people march and protest, they don't usually go right to Molotov cocktails. They start with a peaceful protest, with lots of people saying, no justice, no peace, yada, yada, as they march down Fifth Avenue and close it down. And then there's like 2 or 3 guys who are like, hey, let's break that window at Starbucks. And it's usually a white guy, quite frankly. Because they have that white guy superpower of, not being arrested. So they break the window, and then everyone says, oh, these terrorists breaking windows. Here you actually have someone throwing a Molotov cocktail at a bank and it blowing up the bank. Because that's just crazy. Still, for a good, despite being fairly heavy-handed, and that was the really heavy-handed point, was Captain Boomerang saying, hey, I've been in and out of the justice system my whole life. I've met a lot of folks who were very clearly innocent, but were convicted. Guess what they all had in common? Wink, wink. It's like, Nick, don't be so heavy-handed with it. I get you want to make your woke point because you're a woke white gentleman, but don't be so obvious with it. There's ways to tell that story without being like, hey, all the people who were convicted, who were innocent, were black. Because I'm sure that, yes, there are a lot of innocent black men who get convicted or who take the plea because it's just the better deal than having to deal with being convicted. But you don't want to make it seem like you're just saying, especially when you have the white guy saying it, you don't want it to be so heavy-handed,
Mm-hmm.
Although I guess maybe Nick's sitting there saying, well, if I had a black character saying it, then it just seems like he's justifying criminality. So I can get Nick's point in that, but I'm also like, is Nick Australian? Because maybe that's why he picked Captain Boomerang to be the bitch. I don't know. Anyway, Phil, let's get to Ultimates 2, and let's close this out, because this is like a 2-hour episode tonight.
Yeah, I know.
You bought too many books, Phil. I blame you.
Hey, I went through them as quick as I could. All right, Ultimates 2, number 4. A lot of numbers there. Basically, we get the new Order and Chaos who formed Logos. And they're basically going to destroy the Celestials. Yes. Or try to.
Yeah, but who protects the Celestial?
The Never Queen.
Do you know who this character? Do you know who she is?
No, this is new to me, I think. No, who is that?
Yeah, she is from the Silver Surfer run.
Okay.
And I can't remember who was doing that, but just before the end of the universe, she was a character. She is basically the opposite of Eternity. Eternity is everything that is. She's everything that could be.
Interesting.
And so she's all the alternate universes. And I think there's a point in that when she brings out at the end the last Celestial, basically saying there's always something you didn't count on. But in between that, that actually comes in after Logos tries to destroy all the Celestials. And he suggested the Celestials avoided the end of the universe, doesn't he?
Yeah, he said. He says you created the multiverse, and then he says, they hid in some. Oh, here you hid in the deep folds of space time. But I didn't think there was any space time left.
Well, as we said from the Secret Wars universe, emphasized from if no place else than just the Marvel the AVX kids verse portion, that yes, there are alternate universes, there are these things. That was like my favorite part about Secret Wars, is characters you did not think should have that kind of depth to say, this universe doesn't work right. This isn't where things are supposed to be. When you have that and you have Asgard, it says Asgard shouldn't be here. Asgard should be in another dimension. And the Beast character in that Kitty AVX universe saying, I've contacted other dimensions and they make the point that Doom punishes you if you touch other dimensions. Because even Doom knew the second you introduce multiplicity into a universe, when the universe is not just static beyond, that you create these multiplicities. That time, this force flowing through the universe creates these multiplicities. Yeah. But anyway, that's 2 stories ago. Anyway, let's move on to what happens next. The Troubleshooters versus the Ultimates.
Yes, and their leader, America Chavez, because of course, teenagers in the Marvel universe.
Is she a teen? I think she's 21. I think she's actually I think she was like the one member of the New Avengers who could drink legally.
Okay.
I think they made a point of that.
Okay, that's why it threw me, because I knew she was in the Young Avengers. But yeah, so a lot of this issue is the Ultimates versus the Troubleshooters, and then we get to the end, Charlie.
Yeah.
It's sad.
Well, so far.
Well, Logos comes for Galactus, and basically it looks like they undo what the Ultimates did, and Galactus hungers again.
Yeah, but you notice that he's got like a little impy hand. His face is not right.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, they've made a Galactus, but not a proper Galactus.
It's like a zombie Galactus.
Exactly, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And just before that, I like the Spitfire character infiltrating T'Challa's suit and dismantling his armor, and him like, you know, but the war does not live in the weapon, Lieutenant.
Mm-hmm.
And I say, the battle begin. Let the battle begin. You know, which is just that is just classic T'Challa. You know, honestly, he's just like, you know, he is so much better than Batman. Honestly, well, there's never been a Black Panther versus Batman crossover. Well, honestly, no. The reason why is because DC would never let Batman face Black Panther, because as even the most DC diehard would say, no, Black Panther would totally kick Batman's ass up and down Gotham. You know, I mean, there's no way that ends any other way. Because he is the Black Panther, and he is like, you know, he is good guy Doctor Doom. You know, he is. I am Doctor Doom. I have all the brilliance of Doctor Doom, all the wealth of Doctor Doom, my entire own country, but also I don't want to be king. I just want to go fight, you know, zombie Galactus. So, okay, Phil. I think that's all our books this week. 4 hours in. Yeah. So I hope you've enjoyed your 2 train rides there and back and there and back again.
Your 2 free hours of all new Marvel Round.
Same price.
But as amazing as it is, Charlie, there are still books we don't cover. So if you would like to be a correspondent and cover some of these books for us, you can always email us, marvelroundup@gmail.com. Follow us on Facebook. Give us a like on Facebook, facebook.com/allnewmarvelroundup. Follow us on Twitter @Marvel_Roundup. And we're even on Instagram, Marvel Roundup. And Charlie, where can people talk to you about Hydra Cap?
Yes, and let me just say real quick, if you want to be a Cub, Nuff Said, or Legends of DC reporter, any book, anywhere, and quite frankly, if you want to review a Dark Horse book, or some other indie book, if you want to create a indie book channel here on the Southgate Media Network, let us know. If you want to read it, we will find a place for your review to be read and give you that adulation you so deserve. And if you'd like to write to me to send that to me, you can do that in that old-fashioned email way at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word. If you want to know how to spell it, look it up on the at southgatemediagroup.com to see how we spell it on our feeds. See how I got them at gmail.com. And of course, if you want something much, much easier, just follow me on the Twitters at Charlie Esser. That's CharlieEsser. Look for the 2 E's right there in the middle for quality.
All right. So yes, lots of books, lots more books coming next week. And of course, the impending Secret Empire is coming. So come join us, the Resistance. Fight him off. And before he can make America great again. Good night.